What is up, my maniacs? I'm the Awesome Maniac, and today we're looking at A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Now, I know I'm not in my usual setup, but I decided to try to film one of my reviews at my desktop where I edit the videos and stuff. Let's see how that turns out. But anyways, it was released on August 19, 1988, and it stars Lisa Wilcox as new protagonist Alice Johnson, and Robert Englund back as the old Fredhead. Motivated by nothing more than money, New Line asked Wes Craven for ideas for a fourth film, and his pitch was time travel within dreams that broke all the rules of dreams. Deciding not to follow that batshit idea, they instead looked for a follow-up to Dream Warriors. Let's see if that was a success by starting with the characters. Getting into the characters part of this review, this is the first one to directly involve characters from the previous one. Kristen Parker, Joey Crucell, and my favorite, Roland Kincaid. Too bad they're killed off early in the film, but it's whatever. But even though we get Kristen back, she's not played by Patricia Arquette. Now that in and of itself does not make the replacement bad, but I just can't get behind Tuesday night's performance. Another returning cast member is Kristen's mom, who, guess what? She's still a bitch. But enough about the Dream Warriors, let's talk about the new batch. Starting with the supporting group, two of them are at best two-note characters, so we're going to go about this like a game show. Introducing contestant number 1, Debbie Stevens. She loves working out and hates bugs. Contestant number 2 is Sheila Capet. She's a nerd and has asthma. Also a really sleeper and hates me. I'm also not a fan of their introduction, or really just the introduction of anybody not named Kristen, Joey, or Kincaid. When Kristen shows up and all her friends display their major character traits, it just plays like the opening of a sitcom. Maybe the weirdest character integration is Dan, who kind of just falls into the group. I like Dan, he's a good guy and
one major league hunk.
But he just feels like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. At first. But I don't think anybody here is terrible at the role. Rick gives some flat line deliveries here and there, but he's still funny. His and Alice's dad comes off initially as just a drunkard asshole, but later on you can tell he's just a broken man after the death of his wife and his kid's mother. I've been dancing around the main character, so I'll dig into her now. Alice Johnson, my favorite final girl from this franchise. Spoiler alert. I love her character arc in this movie. She starts off as this shy, introverted girl, but after absorbing the powers of her friends after they die, she ends the movie as this badass, don't fuck with me, woman. And it felt natural, which is something I really appreciate about it. It doesn't feel like it isn't earned, it's the opposite. I also love the brother-sister dynamic between her and Rick. Big fan of those dynamics in movies, given I have a sister I'm pretty close with. Hi, Kirsten. For characters, I'm going to give this a hangout rating. The story is pretty basic, with most of the enjoyment coming from the characters and Freddy himself. So let's do this simple and start from the beginning. The opening song, Nightmare, is a nice song, being sung by Tuesday Night herself, actually, keeping the theme of good music in these movies. Of course, this one has a creepy opening, keeping again in line with the previous movies. That's one thing this series does well. Feeling like a true series with more consistency than other slasher series like, say, Halloween or Friday the 13th. And speaking of that, Freddy's resurrection makes absolutely no goddamn sense. Dog piss! He's resurrected by dog piss! Or if there's supposed to be something else there, I can't see it past all the fiery dog piss. But even though that is the dumbest thing in this movie, the actual effects with the resurrection are actually really great looking. Then we get into Kristen and all her new friends she's made in the whole 1 year between this one and 3. Though I have a theory that maybe Kristen knew Rick, Alice, Debbie, and Sheila before Dream Warriors. It's the only thing that makes sense because those are some strong bonds to forge in just 1 year. Now, the main plot of this movie is Alice absorbing all the powers of her friends to battle Freddy. The way they present this, with Alice being thrown back like a bad fucking hiccup hitter, is very blatant and just in your face. Especially since she inherits their one-note personality traits. But again, just like with Freddy's Resurrection, the idea isn't all that great, but the execution of said idea is enjoyable. Seeing Alice kicking Freddy's ass with Rick's martial arts ability and using that device Sheila made to put a hole in him was cool. But even after all that, Freddy still doesn't go down, so Alice has to improvise. And improvise she does because she pulled that out of her ass. But gotta give big props to random dream children reminding her of the Dream Master saying. And hey, we get some gratuitous Linnea Quigley nudity, so can't really fault it. There were some dumb things about the story, but those dumb things were actually executed fairly well, so I'm inclined to give the story a Groundhog Day rating. Again, I'll keep this section a little short because Freddy mostly stays the same, and I don't want to keep treading old ground, so I'll note what I like and what I don't like about Robert Englund's performance in this movie. First off, I don't find Freddy scary in the slightest in this one. There's still a bit of hint of that in 3, but in 4, this one is just all gone. He's too jokey with too many one-liners, most of which don't land. But even though he isn't scary, doesn't mean he isn't still a big fucking creep. How he acts when he kills Sheila just makes my skin crawl. Robert's very good at making me feel uncomfortable as Freddy. I also wanted to note one very odd editing choice with him. When he is first resurrected and the camera pans on him, he's saying something but his mouth isn't moving in the slightest. Threw me off when I watched it for this review. But here, check it out.
You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
A little weird, isn't it? And lastly, I want to talk about his makeup in this movie because it's phenomenal. Easily the best he has looked so far in the series. And hey, I'm happy to report that there's finally a consistent voice for him in this. No Freddy voice, Robert Englund voice changing in the same scene kind of bullshit. There's not much more else I can say, so I'm just going to leave this Freddy performance with a badass rating. These are the highlights of this movie because there are some gnarly and creative kills in it, so let's go to them. But first, let's get to some of the more lackluster deaths. Kincaid's just a gut stab, and I think he deserved better than that. But man, Kristen's death definitely deserved better. Very disappointed with hers. Another one I didn't really care for was Rick's. There was a different death written for him, but they couldn't afford it, so their alternative was to have him fight nothing. Just fight an invisible Freddy. At least the glove that kills him is real. That's about the best thing I could say about that one. But now we can get into the cooler shit. Like how Joey was dispatched. His death had shades of Glenn's from the first one. Sitting there, headphones in, TV on, laying on his bed. It's also a cool visual of him laying on the inside of his waterbed. Sheila's death was just fucked up. I know people that have asthma that have watched that scene and felt like an asthma attack was hitting them just from watching it. Also, the visual of crispy Kristen before Rick died was disturbing. How she was all pretty in the mirror and then turn around and was fucking And now for the creme de la creme of this movie, Debbie's death. It's so disgusting and just skin crawly, and who the hell thought of this? It's very visually bizarre, and I don't think I'll ever be able to watch that one without cringing. The very disappointing deaths of Kincaid, Rick, and Kristen are a big black spot on the otherwise bright of the rest of the creative kills. But even then, Debbie's is so burned into my brain that I can't give the kills anything less than a head stomp rating. And now, let's take a look at these.
Run
have very mixed feelings about this movie because there's some really good but also some really bad too. On one hand, I love half of the kills and the execution of Alice and her powers, but on the other hand, I hate the other half of the kills and Freddy's resurrection and how two-note some of the characters are. All in all, a mixed bag, so I only think it's appropriate to give this a pass the time rating. Tired of that pesky Freddy Krueger trying to haunt you in your dreams? Well, if you're comfy wearing some of the official The Awesome Maniac leggings, then he can't get you. That's how that works, right? Well, anyways, join me next time where Freddy tries to abduct an unborn child. Until then, don't forget to like, share, comment, and if you haven't, subscribe. Bye-bye.